All right. So, hey, is this Dutch Nets fan with a second episode of Nets Level for HoopSpaces. I'm joined by Dre, who's very well known in Nets world. So, welcome, Dre.
What's up? What's up?
So we're here today to talk a little bit about the current situation with the Nets. How did they come out of the All-Star break? We have the first game tonight since the All-Star break. And we're going to basically look forward to see what the ceiling is with the current roster. What we should do with the final open roster spot. And if we have any reason to be positive as Nets fans, or if we should basically despair and accept that Nets fans can never have nice things. So because as we all
we had
know,
we had nice things. They just weren't on the court all the time.
that is a very fair point. But what I really feel like is say Murphy's law. Everything that can happen will happen. For the Nets, like everything bad that
Has
could
happened.
happen happens, right? Like so it's crazy. Now that dust has settled, we have a roster that's featuring Cam Johnson, of course, Mikal Bridges, Dorian Finney-Smith, and Spencer Dinwiddie. I think those are the four major players we got in return for KD and Kyrie. That's excluding the bunch of first-round draft picks that we got.
Yeah.
And of course, we still have Cam Thomas, Thad Curry, Nicholas Claxton, Defensive Player of the Year candidate. Yuta Watanabe, and some other players who might or might not make the rotation. So, Dre, how do you feel about the current roster in general?
I feel really good about the current roster. I say that very cautiously. Obviously, I feel like this is like the third year in a row that we're coming out of an All-Star break talking about trying to build chemistry. You know what I mean? With
Yes.
obviously like new
Yep.
players or players coming back from injury. But when you look at it, I mean, next 10 games, Bulls, Hawks, Bucks without Giannis, right? Knicks, Celtics,
Yes.
Hornets, Rockets, and Bucks again. I mean, can we go 7-3?
That
I
would be
mean,
very
I don't
nice.
think I don't think the Hornets are that tough. The Knicks are up and down. We're gonna catch the Bucks without Giannis. I think we can take the Hawks. I think Celtics game is it's tough to forecast a win there. They've been together for like 3-4 years. They
Yep.
just added some pieces. So I mean, can we go 7-3,
Yes.
maintain the 5 spot in the playoffs, and then build on the continuity there? Because I think one thing that we saw, even in the games we lost with the new group, is that
Hmm.
these guys are tough defensively, right? Like
Yes.
there was certain, when we played, I think we even lost that Philly game, but you could
Yeah.
see that okay, Embiid and Harden got off, but no one else really scored in double figures. Like we shut everybody else down, right? So I
Absolutely.
feel cautiously optimistic about the roster. I think Jacques Vaughn is really frustrating me with like who he's going to put in this rotation. Like, I would
Yes.
honestly not start Cam Johnson and I would start Cam Thomas because whereas before with KD and Kyrie, we couldn't stop anyone. Now we're having
Hmm.
issues scoring, right? And I don't think
Yes.
that we should be able to be. I don't think Dinwiddie should have sole playmaking duties, right? So I
Yeah.
think I think if you insert Cam Thomas for Cam Johnson, we'll have the necessary defending, we'll have the necessary scoring, and it's just about who closes the game. And
Yes.
if it's Cam Thomas closing the game with Dinwiddie, I'm really confident in that. You know what I mean? Are we contending for a title? No, but things can happen. You know what I mean? Okay, when we thought we were going to steamroll to the finals, but then Harden got hurt, and then Kyrie got hurt, and then it was just
Yes.
KD by himself. You just saw Giannis get hurt. You know what I mean? Like
Yes.
I don't wish injury on anyone, but it's a part of the game. So like
Yeah.
how
Yeah.
long does Giannis come back? Does that allow us some breathing room in terms of like where we're seated? How many games do they win? So, I mean, I'm pretty confident in the roster. I think if we get lucky with like matchups and seeding and like, we can beat the teams that we're supposed to beat on paper, I think we can win way more than we're going to lose just looking at the remaining schedule. And I think that, at the very least, I think we can maintain that 5 spot. And then who's in that 4 spot in the playoffs?
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah, I agree
Cavs
with that
got.
because absolutely. So I 100% agree with what you said. Like there's this realistic part of Nets that I call a little bit more pessimistic, that are saying like we're going to be in the play-in, and then I think after one win, there are a couple of people who are saying like, are we going to make the conference finals, right? I think that's a little bit overly optimistic. But if you look at the teams that are behind us in the standings, I don't feel that any of those teams are better than us, and definitely not significantly better than us. So if you look at our remaining schedule, like you said, I mean, we have a relatively tough schedule because we have quite a few playoff-bound teams and teams that are above 500, but some teams are missing key players. And more importantly, I feel that we have a very home-heavy remainder of the schedule, right? So we have a lot of home games coming up, and we're ending on, I think, a stretch where we have really the majority of home games. So I think that's something that will help us. On top of that, I do feel that our roster has also a lot of potential, right? Like you can see that Mikal Bridges, is already slowly growing into being the number one option, right? And defense to him comes first. So even when he scores 40+ points, he was talking about a couple of defensive possessions where his man scored, right? So, Mikal Bridges is, even if he's going to average 30 points per game, I'm not saying that he's going to still be more focused on defense. So I think that is key for what you are saying, because at some points we miss a little bit of playmaking, but if you have someone like Bridges on the court, you can get away with starting someone like Cam Thomas. So I definitely also agree with that, even though I do understand Jacques Van, because he wants also some scoring and some playmaking in the second unit, and he doesn't want it to be, that's what I think that he wants, is that he doesn't want the second unit then to struggle scoring, and then you're basically going to give up any lead that you built with your starting unit, right? So I think he's trying to find a balance there and see how he can utilize Cam Thomas best. I wish he would got a couple of games, to show that he's a starter, but I can also live with Cam Thomas coming off the bench.
My thing is I don't mind him coming off the bench if he's playing starters minutes. Right? Like,
exactly. Yeah.
If he's coming off the bench and playing, 30 to 35 minutes, then great.
He should. He should.
I think the one thing that the trades did was make us deeper, and we saw it in a few games where it's like now you have guys like Curry, Joe Harris, and Yuta playing against the other team's second team, whereas before they were, maybe in and out of the starter lineup. You know what I mean? So it's like, I can see our second team doing way better than the other team's second team, not even keeping us close, but actually getting us leads. Because in the wins that we had, our bench unit outscored the opponent's bench units by a lot, and I think that's something we should we should be able to do that consistently. So that's definitely an excellent point. And overall, the Philly game that you mentioned, like we basically lost that game off of a missed call by the refs. People see we lost that game, but we were in it till the very end. And I think was it with like 17 seconds to go or something. We lost that game there. We lost it there, but we also lost it at the free throw line because like those guys got, I think they shot like maybe 30 free throws. And
that was wild. Yeah.
So it was like things weren't going both ways. So, that one possession, in spite of not getting all of the calls, absolutely, like they blew the game there.
Exactly. So I feel we were right there with a team that is better than us, because the Sixers are better than us, but we were right there with them. So I think that's also one of the reasons why I am positive like you. So that's roster-wise. So you mentioned it already. You think holding on to the 5 spot, that should be a realistic goal for the Nets, yeah?
Absolutely. I mean, like let's really look at the schedule, right? We have the last game is the 76ers. We have the Hawks a few times. We have the Cavs a couple of times. We have the Nuggets twice. We have the Bucks twice, and we have the Celtics, right? I mean, let's say we go 500 in those games. Like those are all high-level playoff teams. Maybe we don't go 500 in those games, whatever. We still have Bulls, Hawks, Hornets, Rockets, Timberwolves, Thunder,
Minnesota
Kings.
twice, I see.
Yeah, Minnesota twice. We got the Magic.
Minnesota twice, Houston. Yeah.
Houston. The Jazz. Like, we can still hold on to this 5 seed. Like, we're 10 games over 500. And it's like we can still get the 5 seed. If we get the 5 seed, if the standings hold the way they do, we're having the Cavs in the first round. And I think we can take the Cavs.
We're no worse than the Cavs. We're no worse than the Cavs. Yeah.
Then you look at the 2-3 matchup. The Philly in the second round would have to play the Bucks. And then I know the Celtics are the best team, but we match up really well, man. We can put Dorian Finney-Smith or Mikal Bridges on Tatum, or put, one of those guys, one of the other guys, Cam Johnson or Dorian Finney-Smith on Jaylen Brown. We match up really well. I was listening to radio today here locally, and they said that outside in our starting lineup, outside of Dinwiddie, all of the other guys in the starting lineup have 7-foot wingspans. So it's like, switchability, playing defense. One thing I love about Finney-Smith and Mikal Bridges and even Cam Johnson was that we were gang rebounding. Like, we're hunting rebounds when we're on defense, right? Whereas before, sometimes we weren't really getting that effort. So, I mean, can we hold teams under 100 points? Because I think we can score 110, right? So if we can, law of averages, I think that we can make some noise in the playoffs. Do I think that if the chips fall in our favor, which they never do, we'll be able to at least get a really interesting 7-game series in the second round.
Exactly, because I tried to compare this team to the 2021 Hawks. That's what I also did in the article that I wrote. Check it out on HoopSpaces.com. It's where I talk about the 2021 Hawks had no business beating the Sixers in the second round, right? I mean, they beat the Knicks in the first round, which they should have beaten the Knicks. That was fine. In the second round, they had no business beating the Sixers, but Embiid, I think, was hurt during the playoffs, and you know how Embiid is. Embiid sometimes underperforms, right? Like, it's just the way it is. Like, he should be as dominant as Shaq was, but sometimes he underperforms.
He runs out of gas.
So
he runs out of gas.
Yeah, exactly. So it's. I really feel that the Celtics should beat us. We have no business beating the Celtics, but it's not impossible. Like, before the trade, the Celtics were a bad matchup for us. They're no longer a bad matchup for us. They're just more talented, but they're not a bad matchup.
We match up well defensively against them, though, because if Robert Williams isn't 100%, their big men are about 6'8", 6'9", 6'10". So we don't have the size issues like we do with the Philly and Joel Embiid. Going into this last stretch, though, I think that we have the defensive wings. If we can develop some chemistry in these last few games, then I think we'll be okay. I have a different take on who we could kind of compare them to. I look at I don't know, what was it, 04, 05 Pistons team? Like, not to say that we could win a title, right? But they were a collection of parts, right? Where Billups was the steady point guard who was clutch. You had Rip Hamilton, who was their scorer. You had Tayshaun Prince as a slasher defender. You had a really steady Rasheed Wallace, and then you had like a defensive specialist. I think the sum of their parts made them really great, and they were a really great team together. But who's to say that we can't go into the playoffs with that same identity, right? Like defense, toughness, and then clutch scoring. Because something else I heard on the radio was, I think since 2017, Dinwiddie has 6 games in which he made the go-ahead basket in the last 10 seconds of overtime or the final quarter.
And it's
So
the most
he
in the
can hit clutch
NBA in that
shots.
period.
It's the
Yeah,
most in the NBA, right? So it's like
yeah,
he can be clutch on the right stage as Billups was. Mikal Bridges, can provide the scoring, and versatility on defense. And then, Cam Thomas, who's to say he can't be our Rip Hamilton, where it's like, okay, he's our scoring specialist, right? Like, he's not great on defense, but he can come in and just, give you buckets. And then if you have a guy like Dorian Finney-Smith that, compares very well to a Tayshaun Prince, and, Claxton, who's a defensive specialist, can play 1 through 5, can be our anchor. Like, we have parts, and if they can come together, who's to say that they can't make a run? I don't think, I think it'll be tough to get to the conference finals if, we have to face Boston, but, in the second round. But, I think we can make some noise. I don't think we're just going to bow out in the first round like everybody thinks that we are.
absolutely. And then, like I said, I don't believe we're going to be in the play-in. We should be able to beat the Cavs, and then we should be able to make it very tough on the Celtics. And then who knows what happens. But I like that comparison with the Pistons. So when you look at the roster again, one of the things that has been a big part of the Sean Marks era is that we are terrible at rebounding. We're talking about, rebounding percentage. It's defensive rebounding percentage being the 30th in the league, the 29 to 28, always at the bottom. The Nets have now said that they're going to be a little bit they're going to hold back when it comes to filling its final roster spot because the C word is back. Culture. We're back to the 2019 culture warrior Nets. And he said he doesn't want anyone to come in to ruin the culture, to ruin what they have going on now. Do you believe that we should still have someone who can rebound? Or do you think, like, with gang rebounding, with the defensive specialists that we have, we are okay going forward?
I think we're okay going forward because, honestly, rebounding is really about effort, and we've got guys like Dorian Finney-Smith and Mikal Bridges and Cam Johnson who will give the effort. Claxton will give effort, even though he's a little light in the pants and he gets moved off of his spots when he's trying to box out.
Yeah.
But when you're talking about a team effort with rebounding, I think we're going to be okay. I don't think there's anybody out there that's available is going to come in and really help us immediately, right? Like, the guys who are out there haven't played all year. So what kind of shape are they in,
Yes.
Coming into a new situation? It's funny because in Nets World on Twitter, there are a bunch of people talking about Jakob Poeltl, right? And
Yes.
I would just look at that and be like, well, who cares about Jakob Poeltl? But in his last 4 games, the guy's had 15 plus rebounds. And, if it wasn't for the trade deadline for that guy to get, there's nobody really out there that's going to come in and clean the glass for us, right? Like, DeMarcus Cousins isn't that guy. Who's taking a buyout right now? And that's the culture thing, right? Like, I think he kind of upsets the locker room. But who's on the buyout market that's a possibility for us that's going to really move the needle? I say we go with the guys we have, and the guys we have just focus on defense and rebounding and effort and hustle.
Yeah, the Poeltl thing hurts me a little bit is because, yes, he would have been good for what we wanted. And also, he's best friends with Pascal Siakam, right? And the story is that when Kyrie demanded the trade and he went to Dallas, that the Nets were focused on getting Pascal Siakam. The funny thing is that Pascal Siakam was called into Masai Ujiri's office after or during a workout. Nobody knows what they discussed. But the possibility is that the Nets were quite close in getting Siakam, and then Durant's team said, forget about it. It's over. Let's move on. Because if he would have gotten Siakam and we could have also gotten his best friend, Jakob Poeltl.
Yeah.
And with Poeltl, Siakam, KD, I mean, that would have been quite good, to be honest.
That would have been great. Yeah, man.
Yeah, and also what also annoys me a little bit is that the Lakers have gotten and Rui Hachimura and Mo Bamba and Jared
The Mo
Vanderbilt,
Bamba
right?
thing
Like,
kills me. The Mo Bamba thing kills
yeah,
me. Like we could have given up a second rounder for Mo Bamba. Like he stretches the floor, he plays a little defense, he eats up space. Like that Mo, I was screaming off the mountaintop for Mo Bamba, and Marks didn't hear me. So
yeah, it is. It is what it is, I guess.
yeah,
So for tonight's game, because you already mentioned that 7-3 run over the 10 game stretch that you were hoping for, and that is not unrealistic. What are you thinking
it's
for
not.
tonight's game?
I mean, who on the Bulls really scares us? You know what I mean? Like they're two high level players are wing guys that we can send multiple wings at. Like Levine, and I'm
Yeah,
sorry, what's the mid range guy? I keep forgetting his name.
DeRozan.
DeRozan. I mean, they're not all NBA players, right? But like we've got an
Yeah,
all NBA defensive wing in Mikal Bridges. So I don't think that we lose this game. How well we do in a win, I don't know. But those guys, Caruso's always hurt. Ball is out for the season. The actually there is one guy that scares me, and that's Vucevic, because no matter whether he plays for the Bulls or he plays for the Orlando
he
Magic, he
kills
always
us.
kills us. Always, always.
Always. Yeah.
It's like whenever his team needs to get him right, they look at us on the schedule and they're like, "Whoo, good game." But outside of that, though, I don't think we lose this game. I think it's great that none of our players went to All-Star Weekend. So, I would imagine that they got some good practice time in. They got some time to gel, get to know each other. I think one
Yeah.
thing that Jacques Vaughn did that I liked was when he put Cam Johnson in the lineup with Mikal Bridges and Dorian Finney-Smith and with Dinwiddie. Those were two sets of players that had chemistry with each other. So bringing four new players in,
Yes.
bringing those four guys in who they have chemistry with already, they already know how they play, where they're going to be, what they like. I think, was a smart move. But when it comes to the Bulls, as long as we can score enough, I think we'll be fine. And I really just think that hinges on how much playing time Cam Thomas gets, because Cam Thomas is a rhythm player. And it's
Yeah.
like, if he's not getting a lot of touches, he's not in a good rhythm. So I think, like I said before, he doesn't need to start, but if he's playing starters minutes, I think we're good.
Yeah, I agree. I think it is definitely a game we should win, and we just need to get enough points on the board. Other than that, I agree. We definitely should be fine. So two final questions. One, because you talked about minutes in regards to Cam Thomas. Like soon, Nicholas Claxton will have played more minutes this season than he has done in his entire career previously, right? Like that's
Yep.
how much minutes he's playing now compared to the past. Are you worried about that he's going to run out of gas at some stage?
I'm not, because he's been hurt a lot, right? Like I think a lot of his minutes that he hasn't gotten were because he was hurt. And then when you really think about it, we had Aldridge, who gave us a really good boost while he was there. So it was like, in today's NBA, you can't play 2 7-footers unless they can both shoot, right? So I don't think so. I think the All-Star break would give him a really nice rest to kind of reset. And I think the fact that we have a combination of Ben Simmons, I know that's a dirty word in this world, or a dirty name, Ben Simmons and Day'Ron backing him up. I think between those two players, I don't think he should be playing 40 minutes a night anyway. So I think he'll be fresh coming back from the break. And I think, Jacques Vaughn will be smart with his minutes so that he's more effective, going down the stretch. And then let's really look at who we play. When you look at maybe the Nuggets, who else? The Bucks. I mean, I don't see a lot of big teams that we're going to be facing. You know what I mean? Like, no one really has a great 7-footer outside of the Nuggets and the 76ers. So, I think we'll get away with him playing against, some subpar offensive guys, and he can kind of like concentrate his defensive effort and his defensive energy into helping, where he knows that his guy is not like a prolific scorer. Obviously, when we play against the Nuggets, he's got to bang with Jokic, and we play, the 76ers. But everyone else that I see that we're playing, I'm sorry, the Cleveland Cavaliers, and we played them twice. They have 2 6'11"
Mobley and Allen
guys. Yeah.
They do.
But even Allen, they are good, but they're not like the focal point of their team's offense. So I don't think that him banging with Allen for 35 to 40 minutes a night is going to be, super crazy for him. So I think we'll be all right.
Agreed. So for me, when I think about what needs to happen for the Nets to have a decent playoff run, is a couple of things. So first, I would say Mikal Bridges needs to embrace his role as being a number one option for us, right? Mm-hmm. And he has the mentality, he has the talent. So I believe that'll be fine. Another big point for me is that Jacques Vaughn needs to figure out his rotations. So that means that he's going to have to decide, like, okay, how many minutes is Cam Thomas going to get? Is Utah going to break the rotation or not? Does he need to shut down Ben Simmons at some stage? Right, those are a couple of decisions that he needs to make, and also he needs to also decide, like, come on, like Cam Thomas needs more than 20 minutes, right? Like, let's be honest. So I think these for me are the two. Yeah, these are the two key factors for me for the Nets to, if they do those two things, and they can finish the season on a positive note. And if we do that, I think we can make a decent run. What to you are the two, or what are your points that the Nets need to be able to make a good playoff run?
I think it just really hinges on the rotations. Okay. What I see Jacques Vaughn doing is going in with a plan and not deviating from the plan. And I think that hurts us. I think, great coaches will figure out who's playing well on a given night and feed those guys minutes. And I think we have a lot of guys that we can mix and match in different lineups, and whoever is playing well needs to get the minutes. And I think that's the one thing, to maximize who is hot, because there's some times where he plays Joe Harris when Joe Harris is obviously not having a good game. I think sometimes he stifles, Cam's minutes because that was the plan going into the game. And it's like, I think it has to be based on feel. I do understand him trying to get it to 8 to 10 players. But I think in the regular season, it needs to be a 10. And I think the minutes have to come, the decision on who gets the most minutes really has to come from the backup players. Are you playing well tonight? If you're not playing well tonight, we're going to get somebody else in. Play somebody else more minutes. And I think that's just what it is. But I do agree with you on Mikal Bridges. I think that he was so used to playing with a high volume scorer like Devin Booker that he was content kind of sitting in the corner waiting for his turn. But the ball movement I do like. I just think he needs to be more aggressive when he does get the ball. I think he needs to be in attack mode more than not and just read what the defense gives him. Attack the basket or attack the mid-range and see what they do. And if you have to kick it out, then you kick it out. We have a plethora of shooters that can knock down open jump shots. And I think the good thing is that,
Yeah, because I agree. Because, like, if you look at the Sixers game, of course, the referees weren't great. But, if you're more aggressive, then it cannot be that they have had, 12 free throws and we have none, right? Like, that really can't happen, right? Like, so I do feel he needs to be a little bit more aggressive, but he's definitely going to grow into that. I definitely believe so.
Yeah.
So, all right. Well, thanks you, Dre, for joining me on this second episode of Nets Level with Dutch Nets Fan. You can find me on Twitter at Dutch Nets Fan, and you can also follow at HoopSpaces. Also follow us on the YouTube channel for HoopSpaces. And Dre, where can people find you?
You can find me at the Dre Pabon. I have that on my Instagram and my Twitter. I post a lot of stuff on my Twitter when I go to games. I've got maybe about a good 9 games left in my season ticket package. So you'll be seeing a lot more content from me with the new guys.
Awesome. All right. So again, follow us on HoopSpaces on YouTube and follow us on Twitter. And see you guys next week.
Peace.